We're going to, in our life, make some great choices. We're going to make maybe some questionable choices, but as long as you own them and they're yours, and if they don't turn out right, you can stand up for them. And if they turn out right, you can stand up for them.
Welcome to At the Heart of It. Welcome to At the Heart of It. I'm Nancy Brown, CEO of the American Heart Association. What happens when art imitates life? Going from portraying a patient on TV to becoming a patient in real life. That's what happened to my next guest. He was healthy, active, and fit, but something was seriously wrong. We're about to hear an extraordinary story of what it means to look on the bright side of life while experiencing serious health challenges.
Solving mysteries both on and off the screen. Introducing Jason Gray-Stanford. You may recognize Jason from his role as Lieutenant Randy Disher on the hit series Monk. Born in Vancouver, Canada, Jason received his Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theatre from the University of British Columbia. Not only is he an actor, Jason also provided background vocals for Gaslight, the CD Russell Crowe produced. As a lover of health and fitness, Jason received the shock of his life. In 2020, Jason had to undergo surgery for a heart transplant after 2 years of several isolated incidents. Now, Jason is helping us to be proactive about our health.
Good to see you, Jason.
Hi, Nance. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
I am so happy to have this discussion with you today, and I'm really eager for you to share your incredible story with our guests. But I want to start out with some fun questions. Let's play my signature 5. Jason, what's the last TV show you watched or streamed?
Oh, that's easy. I'm a huge foodie, so it's Beat Bobby Flay on the Food
Oh,
Network.
my gosh. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, that's a good one.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
since you're a foodie, what's the last great meal you had?
Oh, the last great meal I had was in this wonderful little restaurant in Los Angeles. It was what I had was eggplant involtini, which is basically baked spaghetti wrapped in eggplant.
Oh,
Absolutely delicious.
You are making me hungry. Okay. Tell us the last song you listened to.
The last song. The last song I listened to. I was actually just at the gym before we were doing this, and it was "It's a Long Way to the Top." If you want to rock and roll by AC/DC.
Oh my gosh, I work out to AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and all of those old timers
that's
myself.
All right. We're a couple old schoolers.
Exactly. What was your first job?
My very first job.
Very first one.
My very first job. I delivered papers. I was a paper boy.
Excellent.
If anybody still remembers what papers are, and used to go door to door, drop off papers.
Yep. Hopefully you got tips during the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. At collection at month end. It was always great around Christmas and Easter and all the holidays.
Yep. I remember that clearly. Jason, what is your superpower?
Resilience.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a little more about your resilience in just a minute. So let's dive into the conversation.
Great, yeah.
In 2020, you had a heart transplant, but before that, you were a busy actor known for roles like Randy Disher on the hit TV show Monk. During that time, you felt good and thought you were healthy. Tell us what happened on the day you ended up in the emergency room and the doctor said you were experiencing heart failure and that you would need a heart transplant.
I was actually I was feeling run down, honestly. And I was feeling a little fluish, just a little tired, a little fatigued, but I was just plowing through with my regular life. And I was actually working on a television series at the time. The X-Files was the show. And I honestly thought nothing of it. I thought, once this is done, I'll get a little bit of rest, I'll recoup, and I'll be back to normal. And just my instinct said, gosh, you've been feeling this way for a long time. You better just call the doctor and just see if something's up. And sure enough, I did. And the next thing you know, he suggested that I go to, a doctor where I was, which I did, a wonderful set doctor on the production. And that doctor basically discovered an arrhythmia in my heart right there on the spot, sent me for an EKG. And after that, they sent me right to the emergency room. And about, 2 or 3 days later, after kind of a barrage of tests, the cardiologist came in and said to me, listen, you have heart failure. And we're going to try and get to the bottom of it. And here we go. And the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, boy, I can't imagine that happening and everything that must have been going through your mind at the time. And just to break it down for our audience, heart failure or a cardiomyopathy is a disease of the heart muscle that causes the heart to enlarge and not properly pump blood. Heart failure means that the heart isn't pumping as well as it should be. And so, Jason, I have to come and ask you about the emotional side of this. Like, what was going on in your head? What were you most afraid of? What questions were you asking at the time?
Well, initially, without question, it was denial. I was like, nope, not me. This doesn't happen to me. I'm fit. I eat well. I exercise, take care of myself. Kind of, in my mind, kind of do all the right things that don't lead to something like this. So I was just really, really kind of in shock. And really, as I say, it was, I was quite resistant, when I was like, it's got to be something else, or we can fix this. Just fix it and let's move on, and off we go. So it really didn't sink in initially, and it took some time for it to kind of sink in. And as you just mentioned, obviously, cardiomyopathy, but mine was idiopathic cardiomyopathy, which really means, gosh, we're not 100% sure how this happened to you. So that was frightening too, because there was really no answer. And yeah, it was really, really, really hard to digest. And once I kind of did, I was like, okay, let's do whatever we can do to fix it and stabilize it. And I was very lucky at the beginning because I was quite stable for a long period of time, and really thought I was going to stay that way too. But sure enough, once my heart failure started to get worse, and I started to become more symptomatic, I kind of went downhill very, very quickly. Nance.
What was the time frame between that initial hospitalization and when you went downhill?
All in all, it was 2018 when I was first diagnosed. And for 2018 and the bulk of 2019, I was relatively stable and even made a little bit of improvement. And the tricky thing, as I'm sure you know, with heart failure is that it can be stable and then you can kind of fall off that cliff. And then the doctors with their expertise can kind of get you back on the right track, and you can be stable again for a while. And then off you go again. And it can be this kind of up and down, this ebb and flow, even if you're doing all the right things. I mean, it's very unpredictable. And, as I say, I was stable for quite a while. And then, gosh, sure enough, it just kind of started to get a little worse and a little worse and a little worse. So at the end of 2019, I had a little episode in the spin class where I started the spin class. I was feeling great that day. I was certainly on, certain medication to help me remain stable, to help my heart, work its best at the time. I was being monitored by my doctors. And I went to this spin class, and about 20 minutes later, I woke up on the floor with my class surrounding me, wondering what the heck happened. And I'm sure quite upset that I ruined everybody's morning workout.
Well, I doubt they were upset. I'm sure they were worried, and hopefully they knew the most important thing to do, which is to call 911 and activate emergency response if someone collapses. But I know for you, especially during that time, spin class was like therapy for you. And I've heard that you have said that when you don't have freedom of movement, people can suffer depression, especially after a cardiovascular event. How did you cope during your recovery? We've talked a little about that time between your initial diagnosis and when you had to face the more serious news. Tell us about what you did to cope. How did you make it through?
Well, you're absolutely right. In saying all of that, I was very active, and that was my exercise. Was really was my therapy. Was where I went to burn off steam and kind of just really relax and just reset. So having that taken away during this time was very hard emotionally. Was very tough mentally. And the mental gymnastics you kind of go through when you deal with something like this. It took a while to adjust to that mentally, but I will say this: positive attitude, staying positive, and kind of putting one foot in front of the other, and and it took me a while to learn this. So I say this now, not like, oh, I've got it down pat. I mean, putting one foot in front of the other and just taking small steps, but positivity and a great attitude really helped me get through it. And also too, humor was huge, kind of in the face of darkness and some tough times. Kind of keeping a smile on your face always really helped me.
Yeah, and by what great words of wisdom for life in general, right? Be positive, be optimistic, have humor. Those are great coping skills.
Hey, listen, I won't sugarcoat it. It's hard. I mean, recovery from something like this is not easy. And I'll just, if I may, there was kind of a little tip that I learned that somebody passed on to me that I'll pass on now really quickly before we move on. I started to think of my day, as I was recovering, after my transplant. And obviously there are a lot of things, there are a lot of factors, obviously the physical factor, the emotional factor, the mental factor, the medication factor afterwards. I started to kind of break my day into 4 quarters, very similar to a football game, if you're a sports fan. That way I felt if you had kind of a bad quarter, you had the other 3 to kind of make it up, so that you could easily pass you could easily move away from anything negative that might happen, because the simple truth is there were days when it's, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, but as long as you're moving forward, that's what counts.
Yeah, I love that. And that is great advice as well. Have the long game in mind, not just one day at a time.
Nance, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Absolutely. Boy, that is so true. So tell us about how you're doing today. I mean, look at you. You look so vibrant, happy, and I'd love to know, how are you doing and what are you doing right now for yourself, physically and emotionally, in terms of self-care?
Well, I feel mentally strong, emotionally strong, physically strong, which is great. I'm very excited about that. Very grateful to be able to be in this position. As I said before, it was a long road to get back here, but now that I am, it's even sweeter than it ever had been. I'm also I'm gearing up to do the transplant games that are coming up soon, kind of like the transplant Olympics. So I better whip myself into shape. This is where I'm looking at it.
Well, tell us about that. Tell us about the transplant games.
Well, listen, the American Transplant Games, they happen every 2 years. And obviously they've been away for a while, kind of like we all have from the world because of this pandemic. And, it's affected everybody in different ways. And but now they're back. They're back in full force. It's an event that takes place kind of July 31st to August 3rd. It's going to be in San Diego, California this year. So it'll be my first time. So I'm really looking forward to it, to kind of not only to go in and kind of compete in some sports that I really enjoy, but just to meet other like-minded people, to kind of just kind of really embrace that community of a lot of other people like me, transplant recipients, organ donors, family, friends. It's going to be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to it.
What a really special opportunity, and a community you never thought you would be part of. And I'm sure that community is so happy to have you there supporting their efforts overall, which really speaks to how your priorities have probably shifted since your transplant and since your diagnosis. What would be the biggest shift you could think that has happened to you during this time? in terms of your priorities and how the things you spend your time on, the things you consider important?
Without doubt, I have certainly changed, I feel, in a certain way. And I hope it's for the better. But one of the things that I realized that I needed to do more was to ask for help, to say maybe I'm not okay. Because I was always very much of like, I've got this, I can handle this, I'll deal with this myself, or just with the people who are close around in my inner circle. So, being able to kind of now ask for help and ask, basically someone, I thought I knew a lot of stuff, and I realized I don't know a lot of stuff. And then maybe the other one would be just, I'm a little more forthcoming now with, how I feel and, what I say to people. Time is so precious. I don't have that much time to beat around the bush anymore, and I don't want to. So, I mean, those two things very much. And without question, I've learned that we are all going through something, regardless of what that may be. Maybe something similar to what I went through, maybe something completely different, but we all have something that we're going through. So just to extend that little extra bit of kindness, that little extra bit of compassion, that's kind of what I've learned.
Wonderful advice that you are giving all of us, and really, really words of wisdom. What is the best advice you have ever received, and who gave it to you?
Best advice comes from my mother. And basically, it's two things. The first one is, this too shall pass. Second one is, no regrets. And that kind of stems from, we're going to, in our life, make some great choices. We're going to make maybe some questionable choices, but as long as you own them and they're yours, and if they don't turn out right, you can stand up for them. And if they turn out right, you can stand up for them. I think that kind of helps you along the road. So those two things, and both from my mom.
I love it. Moms are so wise. And, we all spend our young years not listening to everything our mothers tell us. And then, when you get older, you're like, she was pretty wise. We should.
Yeah, she is indeed. I get pearls of wisdom from her every day.
That's awesome. I am sure she was a big source of support to you during these last several years.
Absolutely. And we talked about this earlier. Listen, it's not just, me who goes through it. There are many people affected by this, and, many people kind of have to deal with this in their own way. And obviously my family was, right there, from day one, dealing with it. So, oddly enough, I mean, going through this, a lot of the time I was more worried about them than I was worried about myself.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think it's not often thought of when someone has a serious health issue like a cardiovascular event or a stroke. The family unit, is really affected. And it's so important that everyone gets some of that love and self-care that we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. And I mean, just, as I say, their mental health, gets so affected because really the focus becomes you. And as I said, with me, those are some of the things that we just answered earlier, like just being able to ask for help and stuff. Like I was like, oh, I don't want to put the burden on anybody. But, sure enough. But yeah, a lot of people it's not, see yourself, friends, family, cardiologists, the doctors, nurses, yeah, all the wonderful staff that kind of help you through these events.
It's funny. One of my mother's pieces of advice to me was always like, Nancy, let people help you. So it's funny,
there you go. That's where I'm dealing with now.
There's a lot of parallels in our lives.
So
I think.
I
know. So it is, again, we're so happy to see you so vibrant. So that must mean that there are some exciting projects in your future. Tell us what you have coming up. What's going on in your life?
I'm thrilled to be, joining forces with you guys, the American Heart Association, as well, in this kind of new chapter of my life. And then, my work-wise, I mean, I can't give away too many details right now, but, Monk fans around the world might be in for some exciting news coming soon. So you'll have to stay tuned.
Well, we loved having that teaser here, and we'd be happy to break the news for you whenever you have it to give us. So, as our #1 spokesperson, you can let us know, and we'll make sure to help you get the word out.
I love it.
So, as we finish our conversation today, and I know this is the first of many conversations we'll have together, do you have a favorite quote or words of wisdom that you would like to leave our audience with?
I just think it's just, it kind of, it means a lot to me, but it also kind of just speaks to, one foot in front of the other. And it goes a little like this: finish every day and be done with it. You've done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. Begin it well and serenely, with too high a spirit to be cumbered with your old nonsense. This day is too dear, with its hopes and invitations, to waste a moment on the yesterdays. And that's Emerson. But it means a lot to me, and it basically means just move forward. We can all do it, as long as you're going in the right direction.
I love it. That is so wise. Thank you so much for so many things. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for giving back. How you serving as a spokesperson for the American Heart Association gives people hope. It will give them encouragement, and it will show them that even in a health tragedy, positive things can happen. Your work in supporting the transplant games is amazing, and I know that community will benefit from your participation. We are incredibly fortunate to call you a friend and a supporter of the AHA. Thank you for sharing your thoughts today. I know we'll have you back when you have breaking news or afterwards, and we'll continue the discussion. But for today, thank you for being with us.
Listen, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to a wonderful future working together. And as I say, it is truly my pleasure.
I so appreciated the discussion with Jason, and I learned so much from him. When you think about the tragedy, really, that he experienced of finding out that he had heart failure and a cardiomyopathy or enlarged heart that required him to have a transplant, for many people, they would feel so defeated by that. But he really helped us realize that positive mindset, putting one foot in front of the other, and really recognizing that no matter what life's challenges are, that we can overcome them. I really learned that from listening to Jason today. And it reminds me as well how important it is for all of us to take care of our hearts every single day. Jason spoke about exercising in spin class, and I know things like proper nutrition and keeping our numbers in check all really matter and are a way that we can take control of our hearts as well. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of At the Heart of It. Don't forget to download, subscribe, comment, and share. I'm Nancy Brown. We appreciate you joining in.
On the next At the Heart of It, making math fun.
Then there's areas where our bodies are getting ignored and they're not getting all the stuff they need. Our bodies, our minds and bodies are so connected. So even just stretching and some circulation, some like arm circles, whatever you can do, deep breathing, drink your water, lots of water. These are the kind of things that I do. And that helps me on an ongoing basis to deal with stress.
Find out how actress turned math enthusiast Danica McKellar is teaching our young girls the power of math. Next, At the Heart of It.